call the meeting to order and request a roll call.
President McClelland.
Here.
Vice President Darrow.
Here.
Mr. Bush.
Here.
Ms. Kalinowski.
Here.
And Mr. Newmoff is not going to be here this evening, I believe.
All right, we have a quorum. Could I please ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think everyone has in their packets the previous board minutes. I'd like a motion to approve the board minutes.
So moved.
Second. Mr. Darrow, Mr. Bush. Could I have roll call, please?
Mr. Darrow.
Yes.
Mr. Bush.
Yes.
Mr. McClelland.
Yes.
And Ms. Kalinowski.
Yes.
That brings us to tonight's agenda, and I do believe we have an addition to the agenda this evening. With that addendum, could I get a motion for approval of tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Mr. Bush.
Second.
Ms. Kalinowski, roll call, please.
Vice President Darrow.
Yes.
President McClelland.
Yes.
Mr. Bush.
Yes.
And Ms. Kalinowski.
Yes.
That brings us to tonight's communications to the board. Mr. Sawyers.
Thank you, President McClelland. I'm going to be brief. The majority of our conversation this evening is going to take place actually during the discussion items. However, I would like to just say we've had a great start to the 2017-18 school year. The kids are adjusting campus-wide. Routines are starting to be established, and academics are the priority every single day, in addition to safe, clear learning outcomes both in the school and across the school campus when kids are outside for playground. The return of summer heat has been fun the last couple of days of school. Kids have actually thoroughly enjoyed it, and the fact that the weather's going to change again and it's going to become cooler, it's actually been fun for the kids to go out on the playground, but it is truly warm. And we are fortunate because we have air conditioning, unlike other schools throughout Central Ohio that have been suffering based upon the temperatures and what it's doing within the academic learning environment. This past Thursday, we had our first professional development activity for the entire school teaching population and non-teaching population across the school campus. We welcome Scott Daly, who is a parent in our school district from Focus 3, to start our formal training with all staff members across the entire school district in the R Factor. So the school district's in the process. The leadership team actually completed this work last school year. We're now integrating into the daily lives of all staff across the entire learning campus. I want to thank the Board of Education members for coming to help participate in what we believe will become a common language that will help us as a school district continue to increase student achievement, student well-being, and student growth systemically across our entire learning campus. So that learning is well underway. It was a very productive day. After the staff had their morning training sessions, they returned to buildings and or departments and had core content or specific grade level subject or specific department activities that they participated in to meet a wide variety of different types of requirements, both at the state and local level, as required for them to do. So it was a great day of learning within the school district last Thursday. I will remind families, and we have them posted on our website, we have 4 2-hour delayed starts this academic school year, the first being in October. So we'd strongly encourage families to make sure you double check your calendars and understand when the delayed starts are happening. School's just starting 2 hours later. So if you have a normal bus time pickup, the pickup time will be 2 hours later than that. So it's 2 hours everything that happens within the student day to help you understand how that actually works across the entire learning campus. But the 2-hour delayed starts are part of the school calendar, and I recommend that families continue to plan in advance. The other topics that I want to talk about this evening with the Board of Education we'll do through discussion items later in the agenda.
Okay. And you may have said it, and I was looking for it. October 11th is the first 2-hour delay, which is a Wednesday. So just so everybody is aware of that. Next item is an update from PLE.
Hello, I'm Audra Wheeler. I am a counselor at the high school, and we've got a lot of exciting things going on in the district, but I want to highlight a couple. Jen Lane and Dawn Scott are the humanities department chairs at the high school, and they have coached the humanities team in the best ways to use Castle Learning online resources. These resources include fiction and nonfiction and can be paired with similar questions to the state tests, as well as ACT and SAT. So that training will help our students benefit as far as the state testing and ACT and SAT. And also, Karen Ramey worked with Sarah Peterson and Donna LeBeau in the middle school to present a culture program for all their students to be held accountable and hold each other accountable as far as living above the line. So that sounds like a pretty cool presentation and something we could probably discuss with you to kind of bring over to the high school as well. And then finally, the association wanted to thank all of you for allowing us to do the R-Factor training. I think it helps the buildings, the district, and individuals as well as our students. So thank you very much for that time. Thanks.
Thank
Very
you.
much.
Thanks, Audra.
It was a great day. It really was. And I know I learned a lot myself. So, discussion items. Any board liaison reports? I'll just take a moment real quick, and I don't know if you'll want to talk about this at all or not, Mr. Sawyers, but last week we had the opportunity, a few of us, to go to the State of New Albany address with the mayor and with about 200 and some business leaders in the community. And it was really great to hear about some of the exciting things that are happening in the city. And there was a lot of excitement and energy in the room. And of course, there are some really great things that we've all heard about. The announcement of Facebook coming to New Albany, which has its own relationship with the school, or doesn't have a relationship with the school, I guess is the best way to describe that. But that's okay, it's good for the city. There was a lot of excitement about the Rose Run project, which we've had the opportunity to see what that will mean in terms of an entrance to our school and a connection between the campus and the Market Square area. But the biggest excitement of the morning was when Michael got up and talked about how well we performed on our district report card and the fact that we went all the way up to number 38 in the state. And it gave us a really good feeling about the sense of support that we have in the community right now as it relates to not just parents, teachers, but just the general business community and people who have some connection to New Albany. They all have vested interest in the schools, and it was really great to see the level of excitement for Michael's presentation, which I know we're going to probably hear a little bit more about tonight. But I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that there was a lot of unity in New Albany that day. There may not be unity elsewhere in this country right now, but there is here. So that was great.
So just for point of clarification, because John mentioned it, there will be a relationship between Facebook and the school district for learning opportunities and clearly a partnership. However, financially, the Facebook 80-acre facility, because it's 80 acres, that it's being built upon benefits the Licking Heights local school district. So it's being built on the opposite side of Beach Road, so it will not benefit the school district financially, it will benefit Licking Heights. So we will find other benefits clearly that we will engage within the school community and or the community at large. But financially, it benefits the Licking Heights local schools.
It's probably fair to say, though, and I'm sure the folks from the community, economic development folks, if they were here, would say this, because of the attraction of Facebook and the need to develop those 80 acres, it will open up opportunities on our side for economic development. So there will be some benefit from Facebook. It will just be down the road.
More long term.
Okay, let's move on to the local report card update.
It's my pleasure this evening to welcome the Coordinator of Accountability, Jess Mamias, to come and provide an update on the 2016-17 local report card. And you have a copy of her presentation at your seat. Jess?
Good evening. I have the great opportunity to share with some celebrations with you this evening in regards to our report card and an update from our last time. Tonight I'll be going over the components of the report card again, going over our updated results and next steps that have already started and that we will continue to do through the 17-18 school year. Just a couple reminders, every time we look at this, the state report card, what is the purpose of the state report card? It is to take a snapshot of the district and look at progress and achievement of all of our students. The report card provides one measure. It is an important measure, but it is used in conjunction with other measures throughout the district. Teachers, because the majority of the report card is based upon the state tests, please know that teachers use multiple measures to determine progress and that this is just one snapshot of our students' work. So here is an overall snapshot, the big picture of our school report card. It is made up of achievement, gap closing, K through 3 literacy, progress, graduation rate, prepared for success. We don't have an overall grade, but next year there will be one grade for the entire report card. I'm going to go into each component now with a little bit more information. Achievement, just as a reminder, our achievement is made up of 2 parts. It's made up of the performance index and it's made up of the indicators met. The performance index is based upon the test results of every student with points awarded based upon the achievement level. Again, I shared this with you back in August. Our district went up 4.9 points in the performance index. That is major gains within that component. Indicators met, the state sets a benchmark. And so for each test, the state says, this is the passage rate that every school and every district should achieve. As I shared with you last time, we were at 14 out of 24. Since I was here in August, we have increased by 1 indicator, and I'll go over that when we go over the gifted indicator. Achievement. So this is that 75%, that performance index, how we got to 102.7. Again, we look at all those 7,000 tests that were taken, they were given ratings, and then they are multiplied by a weight. We add those up to 102.7. And it was shared earlier, we're now number 38 out of 608 school districts in the state. We had the largest PI gain in Franklin County. The state average gain on the PI was 2.5. We almost doubled that gain with a 4.9. We are the #1 district in the state with the highest percent of advanced plus scores. 11.2% of the tests that were taken scored in the advanced plus range. When you look at our individual schools, the primary school was in the top 7%, the intermediate was in the top 4%, middle school was in the top 11%, the high school was in the top 18%. The high school was also the top 5 school in the high schools in Franklin County. Indicators. Again, this is where that state sets that benchmark. Over the last 3 years, the state has slowly increased those benchmarks. So this year it was 80% across the board for every test. There are 23 tests, and then gifted is considered our 24th indicator. 14 of the 23 tests met or exceeded that 80% benchmark. With that percentage, not the prettiest, 62.5, it is still number 68 in the state at roughly 18%. I do want to step back a moment. This was a difficult benchmark across the state. As I said earlier, the state keeps increasing the indicators, and they made some big jumps this year in terms of the percentage of students that they were looking for passage. 80% of districts across the state earned an F in this particular component. So when you look at number 68 in the state with our percent, the top 12%, grand scheme of things, when you look at overall, we're doing well, we still have a ways to go. The 24th indicator is the gifted. There were only 12 districts in the state that met the gifted indicator, and New Albany was one of them. In Franklin County, New Albany was ranked number 4 with indicators met. The last gifted students. This is the one where we didn't have all of our information, all of the results in where we had not met this indicator back in August. There are 3 parts to the gifted indicator. There's the value added, there's the PI, and the total points, or in terms of looking at students identified and served. We earned an A in gifted value added, so our gifted students met or exceeded their predicted scores. Again, that performance index of 120.540 and met the gifted inputs for identified and served students. We had the 4th highest gifted PI in the state of Ohio, In similar districts, we were number 3. The only district in Franklin County that met the gifted indicator, and only 94 of 2,406 rated schools met the gifted indicator. The primary, the intermediate, and the middle school were part of that top 4%. So when we take that performance index and those indicators met together, again, that performance index is 75% of the overall component grade, and the indicators is 25%. So when you take those two together, we have an overall achievement grade of a B. Progress. This was not yet released in August. And so this is branding, this is new information. The progress component looks closely at the growth that all students are making based on their past performances. The calculations looks at how much the student grew over the last school year. This year, when we look at these scores, it is a 2-year composite. So it's not just looking at the growth of our student for the 16-17 school year, but it's looking at growth of our students from the 15-16 and the 16-17 school year. As we move forward, this will come to be a 3-year composite. So again, it's looking at student progress over multiple years. The color bands represent the amount of evidence to show whether or not our students met or exceeded their predicted scores. So when you see a yellow, a light green, or a dark green, it represents students that we have significant evidence to show that our students met or exceeded their predicted scores. In orange or red, states that we don't have enough evidence to show that our students met their predicted scores. From last year to this year, we went from a B to an A in the progress component. You will also notice that not only did our overall students, but our gifted, our students in the lowest 20%, and students with disabilities all met or exceeded their predicted scores. This is a great work. Gap closing. Again, the state looks at particular subgroups. With those subgroups, they set a benchmark, and they look at the passage rate of each of those subgroups with that, that benchmark, that indicators. Although you will see on that red line that not all of our subgroups met that benchmark, we moved all of our subgroups forward from the previous year. So in order to look at some of those calculations, the state gives you 100 points for subgroups that met the benchmark. If a subgroup did not meet the benchmark, it looks at the previous year's score and says, did you increase? And you earn a percentage of the points on how much you increase those students from the year before. So we moved every single subgroup forward. And when you look at the 89.1 and we look at it across the state, we are number 14 in terms of points earned for gap closing. We recognize that although we have made significant gains, there are still groups of students that have not met benchmark, and each building continues to look at groups and individual students' needs to help move all students forward. Graduation rate continues to remain strong, and this is a strong indicator across the state as well. K-3 literacy. Although this is not measured at the district level because we have less than 5% of our students that are off track, our intermediate and our primary are graded on this. Only 4% of schools in Ohio earned an A, and our primary and intermediate are 2 schools that earned that A. Only 4 schools in Franklin County, so this is schools, 4 schools in Franklin County earned an A. The primary and intermediate are 2 of those 4 schools. There are 233 districts that received a 100% score for the 3rd grade reading guarantee. New Albany was 1 of 3 in Franklin County. Prepared for Success looks at different indicators that are used to determine if students are ready for college and or career opportunities. The way this is graded is that for every student that earns a remediation-free score on the ACT or the SAT, earns an honors diploma, or an industry credential, earns 1 point. So of our graduating, this is a year behind, so for our 2016 graduating class, we had 421 students earn a point from either ACT, SAT remediation, honors diploma, or industry credential. Those students then could potentially earn a bump in points based upon their AP scores and or how many credits they earned in College Credit Plus. Of the 421, 373 students earned that bump. Our overall average was an 83.9%. And when you look at that across the state, we are 19th. So as a district, we are 19th in terms of points earned for the Prepared for Success. When you look at in schools, so we break apart those districts that have multiple high schools. In terms of high schools, we are the 14th highest in the state. That's for honors diplomas. But our number goes up. I don't have the number in front of me. It goes up to 14 as well. Sorry about that. We go up to 14 as well in terms of our high schools, in terms of the percentage. We are the 4th highest Prepared for Success in Franklin County. So looking at those indicators for preparing our students, and we are well on our way. When we look at the individual buildings, this is our primary building, the 2-5. Remember, these report cards are based upon the old configurations. So for the 2-5 building, achievement continues to be strong. 9 out of their 11 indicators were met. As we move forward, the only test that will appear on the report card from here on out will be for 3rd grade due to the new configuration. Gap closing, they had created specific goals for economically disadvantaged and their African American students, and they met and exceeded those goals for passage. K-3 literacy, all students were promoted. In progress, all students and subgroups met or exceeded their predicted scores. For the 2-8 or the intermediate building, again, strong performance in both the PI and 11 out of 11 indicators met. Gap closing, they met or exceeded their goals. Again, they had specific goals for economically disadvantaged in their African American students. K-3 literacy, 100% of their students were promoted, and all of their students met or exceeded their predicted scores. At the middle school, they increased their PI score. They met 6 out of their 12 indicators. We have to remember here, as I shared in the last presentation, that we made significant progress in that. We understand that those benchmarks weren't hit, but we are definitely moving forward. For gap closing, they increased passage in all subgroups in math and ELA. Some passage rates within the middle school increased by double digits. Progress, strong evidence that students met or exceeded predicted math scores in grades 6 through 8, and 7th grade ELA and math, strong evidence that students met or exceeded their predicted scores. At the high school, achievement increased. They met 4 of their increase their PI. They met 4 of their 8 indicators. They did not meet, in terms of the gifted indicator, they met 2 of the 3. So they met the gifted value added, they met the identified and served, but due to the increase in PI score, the high school went from 111 to 115 in the gifted PI. The met or not met, that benchmark was a 117. So definitely moving in the right direction and definitely have a little bit more to go. Gap closings, subgroups did not hit benchmark. In particular, when we look at subgroups for African Americans in ELA and math, there was underperformance. And to help look through these and to help support our students, we've added an Eagle period for additional one-on-one help with a certified math teacher. We added in, they are looking at not new assessments, progress monitoring tools, and how we're going to look forward and determine what those skills are that they need to continue to work on. Progress, all students and subgroups met or exceeded their predicted scores. Graduation rate still remains a strong indicator, and prepared for success, as I shared earlier, number 14th in the state. Increased number of students earning number 3s on their AP, and increase the number of students earning 3 or more college credits. The finance piece, this dropped, correct? Our expenditure per pupil dropped at $10,062 per pupil. Next steps. So as we've looked at this, and we've done a lot of looking at the school report card at the district level, at the school level, and at the teacher level. we've started looking at working with Hanover and looking and comparing to similar and other high achieving districts. We've looked at subgroup performances. One of the things that I walked leadership through today, walked teacher teams through, actually sat down and we've created an item analysis. This is the first time in several years that the state has provided an item analysis. So what they do is they provide the test item and then how did our students do on that particular test item. They provided this for math, science, and social studies. And we have created documents for teachers to access and say, here's the standard, here's the test question, and here's how our students did on that. It's a great tool to kind of help understand what the state, when you look at the state standard, what does that mean? How are they going to assess that standard? So it really looks at, helps teachers in terms of aligning their curriculum and instruction towards that end of year assessment. Establishing continuous improvement benchmarks by goals, school, building, grade, or department, looking at that data dig. Action plans and progress monitoring, looking at pacing guides and guaranteed and viable curriculum reviews, just looking to see when and where things are taught. Does it align to the state standards? Writing workshops for our teachers. During the afternoon last Thursday, the intermediate worked with Shelley Schaub in terms of the literacy and the writing within the curriculum. At the high school, there was differentiation workshops looking at how do you help all students within a classroom. So not just teaching one way, but looking at all of your students and what can you do to help each individual student move forward. The math curriculum implementation of Bridges in K through 5, and the math curriculum study that we continue to work on in grades 6 through 12. Questions, comments?
I'll say a couple things. So clearly there's all kinds of things that we can continue to talk about in relationship to the local report card. We're now disaggregating the data by specific subgroups, by students, by grade level, by subject area for all the data release that finally came out from the department. You get trinkets of it throughout the summer and little piecemeals, but you finally get access. We're still waiting on the final report to come with all of the student level data that we can actually then use at the classroom level. But we have enough content right now that we're going through to try to create action plans for continuous improvement. That'll be our next conversation when we talk about the CIP benchmark drafts for next year. But clearly, in the work that's been done to date and analyzed, there's tremendous effort that's been displayed by both students, staff, and families this past year. It is not normal, and I would just say that because we've looked at the other school district data, to get a 4.9 point increase in your performance index based upon student achievement. In our similar school districts, the next closest school district that had that type of a gain was Marymount City, and they had a 3.4 gain, which is probably one of the next highest in the state. So a 4.9 is significant. So there was clarity and purpose for what we were doing this past school year. There was a deliberate focus to the academic achievement and specific benchmarks that were put in place. And we worked as a team, and I think it paid off. And I said that to leadership this afternoon when we met to continue our data mining, because they will tell you we're going through absolutely everything that we can mine to try to figure out what else can we do to continuously improve, because we're still not where we need to be. And although this is a celebration, there's clearly work to be done, but we need to take the time to celebrate. And we said that to staff during the PD day last Thursday, and all of you were there. Because it meant a lot to them to be recognized, to understand there was a lot of hard work that was put into this by students and staff across the entire school district, and our parents, who also are partners at home, to help kids achieve, and that's what we're here to do. So although we're still number 38, we went from 64th to 38th, and it is a celebration. So I will have to tell you on behalf of the entire staff, we're very proud of the work that's happened. We know we still have more work to do, but we're very proud of the effort that's been placed and the work that we've done this past year. And I congratulate everyone that participated in that, including the Board of Education, because it started with your statement of purpose.
Yeah, go ahead.
Really?
Yeah. Go ahead.
All righty. Since we first saw the report card, I've been thinking a great deal about what I might want to say in front of a board meeting, to the public, to our staff. I had I had the wonderful opportunity to speak in front of all the staff last week and say thank you. So I'll start with thank you. It was a big challenge. We set out a year ago to move from 89th percentile to 95th percentile in 5 years. We got to 96.25 percentile in 1. It's a remarkable accomplishment. And I also said a year ago that when we achieved, I'd be the one to stand up and say thank you and congratulations. So, alrighty, I guess I have to stand up and say thank you and congratulations.
That's funny.
Michael and Marilyn and, well, Becky's not here, but Becky, and all of the staff, thank you and congratulations. I know it was a lot of hard work. I also knew it was possible. And so it is a celebration. You should celebrate. It's important to celebrate. Then tomorrow you get back to work. That's the way it is. So I'd also like to add another few things, maybe a little trip down memory lane. I'll try not to take up too much time. But about 18 months ago, we did, as a board, got together and did the hard work to figure out what the heck we're supposed to be doing here as a district. Instead of going in 100 different directions, we worked together to find clarity as to the one direction that we're going more than any other, to create a culture of accountability that achieves the best academic and developmental outcomes for each student. And then we did the work to define each one of those words and agree on what those definitions were going to be. And then we stuck to it. So that as our new leader, as Michael, first of all, we were able to hire somebody who was committed to that. And God, did we get lucky. Great fortune comes to the well-prepared, I guess, but I think we got really lucky. I've studied leadership for a long time, about 30 years worth. And Michael is one of the best leaders that I've ever worked with. And so I thank you for your work, and I'm excited to continue working with you for team effort.
We all work hard.
I know. Leadership matters a lot. I mean, it matters a lot. And each of you are leaders in your groups. So, starting with a statement of purpose and clarity and what it actually means, we said we were going to confront the truth, and you did. Where there are areas that needed a lot of work, you did the work. You acknowledged that there was a problem. It's necessary to solve it, to acknowledge what it is. And you did the work and did what you said you were going to do. It is a team effort. And when I spoke to everybody last week, I said that it was a team effort, and I acknowledged that. And yet I left out a couple of groups, and I want to right that wrong today. I left out transportation. I left out custodial and janitorial staff and maintenance and the mechanics who take care of the buses and the cafeteria team. Everybody on the team makes a difference. When a child gets on a school bus first thing in the morning and it's dark 30 and the bus driver is smiling, it makes a difference. Maybe they had a rough day at home and they get a smile and a hello and good morning and they start their day off right. And when the buildings are clean and bright, it makes a difference. And the food is hot, it makes a difference. And when people smile, it makes a difference. So it really does make a difference. It's an achievement to be celebrated. Yep, we're 38. We have 37 spots to go to be number 1. And we'll get there. Rest assured, we'll get there. And we'll get there faster than you think possible, but we'll get there. And we'll keep pressing, and we'll talk about the commitment to excellence, and we'll talk about the next goals, but take the time now to celebrate and appreciate the accomplishment, and we'll keep charging ahead.
Thank you. Yep. Who wants to follow that? That's nice. Good job. Any questions then? You're going to sneak off to the side, aren't you?
She's going to run.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next is our continuous improvement plan.
That's me.
That is you, Mr. Sawyers.
So as we continue to celebrate the dramatic improvement that occurred within the school district, we also have to be grounded and focused to what comes next. So the leadership team and I have been working on this in preparation for tonight's meeting, and want to go through and present in draft format the continuous improvement plan for the 2017-18 school year based upon the performance metrics we put in place this past year. So I will talk about specifically those, and then what I'm recommending to be the benchmarks for the 2017-18 school year that you'll continue to deliberate. Tonight, as we go through them, I would welcome commentary on each specific benchmark. So we'll do one benchmark, allow you to participate and provide input or feedback, and then go to the next benchmark instead of coming back at the very end. I think it'll just be much more productive to talk about the benchmark while we're actually on that benchmark after I've given you the recommendation and the rationale for why I think it should be that. So let's start with the commitment to excellence that Mr. Darrow referenced. So as a Board of Education Administration, we committed to the statement of purpose to create the culture of accountability that achieves the best academic development outcomes for kids. In that, we set a specific benchmark for aspirational purposes to say, where do we want to be in the state? So by 2021, we want to be ranked in the top 5% of all public school districts in the state of Ohio. That means number 30 or higher based upon the 608 public school districts that exist today. This past year, our first benchmark was the ranking, specifically on student achievement for performance on the standardized assessments to compare across all students in the state of Ohio. Our goal was to go from number 64 to number 54, clearly going from number 64 to number 38 and advancing from the top 11% to the top 6.25% of all schools in the state of Ohio. We met the benchmark. So that's what we're referring to when we talk about number 38. So that was our first benchmark, and clearly it's a celebration that we've just discussed. So for 2017-18, pursuant to our commitment to excellence, we talked about incremental growth of at least 1%. So based upon the incremental growth that we had basically established when we committed to the statement of the commitment to the excellence, I'm recommending that we move from number 38 to number 32 or better. So that's a 1% gain in a student achievement performance as ranked by Performance Index. So the actual performance of students on the standardized assessments in all subject areas across the state. I believe that this is achievable. We've had conversation both internally and with staff, and I'm going to give you some of the reasons why, because I told you, and I think you're aware and you'll recall the conversation, the higher we climb, the harder it's going to get. We're against the best of the best, which is exactly where we need to be, and looking at student achievement performance across the state. So we've sat down as a leadership team and talked about, okay, why is 38 to 32 achievable and possible in our conversation? So we talked about all the things we now have in place for this current academic year that are different than last year when we went from number 64 to number 38. We've restructured school schedules at the intermediate school to increase sixth grade instructional time in mathematics and reading from 52 minutes to 86 minutes every single day. So we've increased instructional contact time. Also at the middle school, that's intermediate school. At the middle school, we've increased instructional time by 32 minutes, and at the high school, we've increased instructional time by 10 minutes daily. We believe between those three levels, for what we did specifically in student schedules, as well as in kindergarten, we increased the instructional blocks of time for reading and math in both the half-day program and the full-day program. So holistically, across the entire continuum for basically kindergarten through 12th grade, we've increased academic instructional time by changing the student bell schedule. So we increased the academic day and restructured within the academic day to maximize instructional time for students. We believe that that will help us continue to fulfill our commitment to excellence. In addition to that, the middle school last year had an EAGLE period for academic enrichment or intervention. That concept was expanded for this current school year to also now include the primary school, intermediate school, and high school. So we've added an EAGLE academic intervention or enrichment period as access to every student on the school campus from primary through high school.
Michael, do we feel like there's been a lot of success at the middle school with that Eagle period?
Last year was a progress. I mean, I will tell you that it took time to understand what could we do with the time differently. It wasn't meant to be just a structured study hall, kind of corralling kids. We had to learn how to use it from an academic enrichment intervention process. And I will tell you, Mrs. LeBeau and Dr. Peterson will tell you that it is being used for that purpose. So did we have to go into it? Was it perfect from the onset? No, but that's why the conversations then took place about what's working, what's not working, and how can we improve upon it. So yes, holistically, I think it's good for kids. It gives us an opportunity to provide academic enrichment support or intervention just in time so that the student has access to the teacher when necessary.
And the teacher that we're matching the students with, is that on purpose, or do they kind of have to find the right teacher during that period?
So it's both. It could be targeted intervention, or it could be, today I had problems because I didn't understand what Mrs. Smith did in math class. So I need to go see Mrs. Smith during my intervention or Eagle period so she can re-explain what happened in math class today because I need extra support.
So they're
it can
allowed
be plug
to
and
do
play.
that?
Yes. Students move. They're not assigned to a specific room every single day of the week during Eagle period. The purpose of it is to give you access to the teacher that you need support from based upon what's happening with you just in time that day. And so you have the flexibility within your schedule to go see the other teachers that you need.
So is that, I'm sorry, is that, so students are self-selecting where to go?
Or teachers are self-selecting for them.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Teachers are providing guidance when necessary.
So
Some students,
but I'll choose for you.
some students may not choose to go get the extra support. Like I might not say I want to go back to math class for the second time today, but I really need to go back to math class because I did not do well on my formative or my summative and I didn't understand something. So I need to relearn it. So it's a great opportunity to have that structured intervention just in time, either through self-selection or by teacher selection.
And will the other schools then follow a similar process?
Yes. The purpose is to provide intervention or enrichment. So it could be for stretch opportunities as well. I've already mastered the content. How can I go deeper? What else could I learn to do with it differently? Because I don't need just the standard. So I've exceeded it.
That's great. I think it's awesome to expand that. It's, you know, kids may not always go the extra mile to come in early or, you know, find their teacher when they need them. And this puts some structure to it.
That's why we believe it's going to help us. In addition to that, focused and targeted professional development opportunities are being provided for teachers supporting curriculum and cultural development across all grade levels. So we've done specific things in core content areas, i.e. with the implementation of the Bridges curriculum in kindergarten through 5th grade, structured professional development activities for that implementation, or as an example on the cultural side, the R-Factor training that we just started last Thursday. We've aligned curriculum to include intervention and enrichment and to ensure coverage of tested areas prior to state testing. So this came out as part of the data dive, that there could have been a specific standard that we've discovered in a specific grade level that may not have been taught by all teachers because of the sequencing. So it might be in the pacing guide that I'm going to teach this in May, but it was on the March exam. So that's something we can deliberately take action against. If it's on the test blueprint and it's now going to be tested, we have to make sure students gain access to that curriculum before the test, not after the test. Because if it's after the test, it's not going to do the student any good unless they rely only on their pre-existing knowledge. So that refresher opportunity. So that's where the test blueprint has now been matched to the pacing guides to help teachers understand where opportunities may exist. And we found those. Lowered class sizes and math connections for classes at the high school. So these are students that are currently enrolled in courses at grade level that are taking grade level. An example would be mathematics and Algebra 1 or geometry. So we've reduced the class size to provide more direct assistance or intervention from the classroom teacher because I'm taking math at grade level specifically. In addition to that, we've created a structured, and we actually adopted this last month at the board meeting, a structured quarter credit opportunity for students to get double dip. They go to an ILC period for intervention, learning, and assistance as a second math class of the day. So instead of having a free period or my study hall at the high school, your study hall has now been converted into a structured math lab where you're going to work on math a second time every single day because you're currently taking it at grade level and you could be at risk. So we're trying to put supports in place to help the student provide direct assistance, back to Mrs. Kalinowski's point, when necessary. We've implemented the use of the BAS assessment for 6th grade teachers for literacy, specifically provided training in the elementary literacy framework that was adopted in the school district 3 years ago for 6th grade teachers, now that they're part of the intermediate school as part of our elementary day. We've introduced the use of DIBELS across all grade levels as a diagnostic assessment that we're now loading into the data warehouse. So we're actually using this to compare student achievement in specific grade levels across the entire grade level for all students through DIBELS. We provided an English language arts resource workbook for all 3rd graders this year to try to help ensure that we're meeting all the requirements associated with the 3rd grade reading guarantee. And again, we've been very successful as a school district the last 2 years with 100% of our students going on without any threat of retention once we get through the summer remediation period. But we want to ensure that we're doing everything we can to help our 3rd graders given the requirement of what's in place legislatively. We've introduced keyboard and online test-taking skills in elementary classrooms for technology. We've implemented the Performance Matters data warehouse, and this is something that we'll demo probably at a future board meeting. So leadership actually worked on this again tonight, and we're starting to roll out for teachers. But we have a new data warehouse that we have implemented within the school district to try to understand what specific data we can collect that we can present in front of teachers to understand what else we could be doing to better meet the needs of each student. So we're tracking data at the student level across the entire school district, and it's for multiple years. So once I'm in 8th grade, we've loaded data for every year that's been available for you in our school district so we can look at you longitudinally to understand if Phil has always struggled, as an example, in fractions, on state assessments, we would know that by looking at Phil's performance history. And that's something we can tell teachers. Here's an area that Phil ultimately might struggle in fractions, but he does extremely well in reasoning. So spend less time on reasoning, spend more time on fractions. Make sure Phil gets fractions because Phil needs support in fractions. As an example, not that Mr. Darrow does. Addition of computer technology classes in grades 1 through 8 to strengthen student skills, specifically on online testing. And we're doing district-led preschool program for stronger alignment and future impact. So you'll recall, and this is just a future piece that we believe will have an impact to us longitudinally. We took over the preschool program from the Educational Service Center of Central Ohio. Those are now our teachers, and we're in control of the curriculum that's being used every day within that classroom. So to that end, we believe those will contribute to benchmark number 1 and allow us to fulfill towards our commitment of excellence a 1% gain in student performance levels to go from number 38 in the state of Ohio to number 32 or better. So I'm going to pause here, and I'd like the board to participate in conversation related to my first recommendation for benchmark 1, 38 to 32.
All right, I'm good with it. How about that? I think there is a expectation that, or recognition that we did a very good job moving up to 38. And is there a belief that we could surpass 32? Yeah, probably. However, I do think that there's something to be said for maintaining some consistency in what we have told people we expect. We asked for 2% that first year, and then 1. Yeah, and that wasn't a fraction. That was just addition. I guess I have to work on that.
We're going to work on adding for you.
Adding for me, yes. Fortunately, my kids get their math from their mom. So we had this big jump. Do I think that we have the team in place from the administration to the teachers? Yes. But I do think it's good for us to also just step back and say, okay, look, this is a work in progress. We know we're not going to get it all overnight. We've made an incredible jump here. Let's just do another %. You have the or better in there. I like that. And hopefully we can get better. I fully expect that we have people in place to do it, but I think that it also is good for us to kind of stay consistent with what we said we were going to do, and that's to ask for another %. And so I think this is a reasonable proposed benchmark that will take some effort to get there. Is it achievable? Absolutely.
So I think Michael picked on me for fractions for two reasons. One, I got the numbers wrong earlier. We're at the 93 3/4 percentile instead of 96 1/4. But two, I gave him a little bit of a hard time a few days ago when I said, we're so close. I deal in whole numbers. I think we should go right to 95th, and let's forget that quarter point. And yet it's right on there. Number 32 or better. I don't think there's going to be any layup. There's going to be a lot of work. I think the team is going to do everything possible to make it to the 2021 goal this coming year, and so I think it's good.
I completely agree. I think that making sure that we set the team up for success through sustained progress is very important. Obviously, as we move up the rankings, it gets more challenging. The results last year were phenomenal, and it's because it was very purposeful. There was a great plan. There was fantastic execution by all. And I think when you look at everything that's laid out that you just walked us through, Michael, again, it's very purposeful. There's a lot of discipline and thought that's gone into here. And that's what I think can give us confidence that while we don't need to set unrealistic targets, the team is poised and ready and positioned to exceed. So I feel very good about the number 32.
I'm completely comfortable with the target. To me, what's behind it is much more important than the actual target. I am so proud of this team, of you, of what you've accomplished so far. And, I got stopped by several leaders in the city, and they were asking me, what do you attribute it to? And there's no one thing, and there's no magic bullet. It's, leadership, hard work, the right people in place, and being very focused on the right things. And, your plans here tonight for continuous improvement, I know is going to take a significant amount of additional work. And, I want to say I'm so confident and proud of this team, and that's what's going to make the difference. I'm not too worried about the number.
Awesome. We have 5,000 reasons every single day to get better, and that's why we keep reminding staff across the school district. That's what brings me to work every day. I have 5,000 wonderful reasons to do incredible things in the school district. So just for confirmation, so I can say it publicly, 38 to 32 will be announced as the benchmark necessary for achievement related to the performance incentives that are now contractually bound for OPSI, for non-teaching personnel, and for teachers across the school district. So the $1,500 performance incentive will be tied to benchmark number 1 for teachers, and the $750 performance incentive will be tied to the non-teachers and exempt personnel through OPSI contract or through exempt classification. So we have to announce it to the teachers by contract by September 30th. Tonight, I'm giving you the draft benchmarks, but I just want to be on record to say that by the 30th, I will notify district-wide that we're going from number 38 to 32 based upon our conversation. And then you'll formally adopt the CIP in October when Mr. Neumoff is back. And you've had an opportunity to see the other benchmarks that I'm presenting this evening. But this is the most important one that I need immediately. So it seems like there is significant consensus amongst the board and agreement that even in the absence of Mr. Neumoff, the majority agree 38 to 32 is the right thing.
4 out of 4 seems to be
it's kind of unanimity, so I think Mr. Neumoff will be fine as well. So benchmark number 2. So this is for facilitating a year or more worth of growth for every year of instruction. This past year, we focused specifically on reading and math in grades 4 through 8 as calculated by ODE and the progress metric. So we met that clearly as a school district. because we had an A on the report card. So there was significant growth beyond a year's worth of growth. A C in the state of Ohio is a year's worth of growth, both in reading and mathematics for grades 4 through 8. For 2017-18, based upon our conversations and looking at the data, I'm recommending that we expand it to not just localize the measure to reading and mathematics, but to actually all students as calculated by the component grade to demonstrate at least a year's worth of growth. So I'm going to take it beyond just math and reading and expand it campus-wide to say all students will demonstrate the year's worth of growth based upon our overall grade that we get as a school district. So again, it's going to require extra work, but we have plans in place amongst the conversations in the leadership team, and I'm sought input from specific grade level teachers for the areas that we think we have to continue to grow and perform better within. So it will be a stretch goal, but I do think it's achievable. Any questions about benchmark 2?
What do you think is going to be the biggest challenge in achieving this? Is it a subgroup? Is it a grade level? What?
It's demonstrating the year's worth of growth for every area. The subgroups are a separate goal. You're going to see me get to that in just a second. Right. So this is all core content areas that are being basically graded by the state. So not just in 4 through 8 reading and math. We started specifically in those grade levels. Now I'm recommending the expansion to include the end of course exams at the high school. It's going to take work, but our kids can do it. Mm-hmm. Our staff can do it. We believe it's achievable. Any other questions on this one? Okay, benchmark 3. This is probably the most complicated one that I get to talk about tonight because it's changing again in the state of Ohio. So for this past year, this is for the subgroup question that Mr. McClellan just asked about. So for specific subgroups, we actually set a goal to increase by 5% or more the performance of student subgroups based upon ethnicity, race, or socioeconomic status for the 2016 to 2017 gap closing report. So overall, we met this as a school district. There are specific subgroups within specific grade levels in a specific building in our school district that may not have met the actual goal, but we met it as the school district overall based upon the report card. So to Mr. McClellan's point, this is one that still requires continued effort within our school district. Jess, during your presentation on the report card, she used an example from the high school, so I'll use that just to make it real. Our African-American students at the high school, both in English language arts and mathematics, underperformed all other subgroups at the high school. So we have to put some intervention plans and supports in place that are different than what we've done. And I just went through a whole list of stuff that we're now doing differently because it didn't all work last year. So we still have evidence based upon the mining of that data that our students, in this case, the African-American subgroup at the high school in mathematics and English language arts 1 or English language arts 2, those are the end of course exams, ELA 1, ELA 2, Algebra 1, or Geometry, are the 4 end of course exams at the high school that the African-American students underperform their peers within at the high school. So we have to sit down and talk about what's working, not working, or what could we do differently to help that specific subgroup of students advance to the next level. Then on top of that, that African-American student could also be in the same subgroup as a subgroup for socioeconomic status, meaning free and reduced lunch. So they're a student of poverty. So I could be the same student, but I'm in 2 subgroups. I count in each subgroup separately. So although I'm one student taking the exam, I impact my results in multiple areas because I have multiple things going on that the school district should be paying attention to help me learn and grow every single day, developmentally and academically. That's where the whole child piece comes back to the center of the bullseye. So there's still work to do in this across the school district. We met it at the district level because we fulfilled the requirements that the state has, but there's still opportunities at the building level within a few specific subgroups. Tremendous growth at the middle school this past year, specifically in the subgroup data. Honestly, they met 7 of the 8. If you had asked us a year ago, is it possible, we would have said absolutely. Would you actually meet 78 subgroups? We probably would have said not likely statistically, but through the work that Mrs. LeBeau had put in place, specifically as the new principal at the middle school, there was tremendous growth, and the subgroups matter. So sitting down and having that conversation were deliberate. Same thing happened at the primary, now primary, but it was the 2-5. And the intermediate school with the new principals at each respectively. Teresa, in her second year as the primary principal last year at the 2-5, put in data notebooks. So specifically identified which students are in which subgroups and monitored their progress as the year progressed through all the different types of standardized or classroom assessments that took place, and it had a significant impact. Same thing happened at the intermediate school and the ELC with both Mrs. Nowak and with Mrs. Unger as the new principals. So if you remember, on the 15-16 report card, we had an F. Remember that big old F that was on that report card for progress, where we weren't meeting the specific needs of subgroups. This year we got a B. We went from an F to a B. That work paid off. The work that the principals and the teachers did on a daily basis to pay attention to specific learning needs. Debbie doesn't learn the same way as Mike, and Mike doesn't learn the same way as John and Phil. So we have to identify what can we do differently to help each student. That goes back to our statement of purpose, to create the culture of accountability that achieves the best academic developmental outcomes for each student. So that's where this work comes into play. That's why this goal is so important. But there's still work to be done. Now, for 17-18, since I laid the foundation, I told you this is changing. And Jess talked about it a little bit, but the state's actually going to change the calculation methodology associated to the gap closure and is now going to a performance index ranking for each subgroup. So we will now have, where the state had set a specific bar that you had to meet, and it was 80th percentile, that's now going away only on gap, not on the indicators, only on gap. Now each subgroup will have its own target that gets identified based upon this year's performance with the intent of closing the gap from, if it's at 60 today, within 10 years, you got to get to 100. So there's specific benchmarks that now will be put in place for every single subgroup based upon each subgroup's specific performance at each specific school district. So this is going to be very complicated, to say the least. The measures are going to be different because the targets identified by the state will be different that we now have to meet in every subgroup. In addition to that, the state's also adding an English language proficiency requirement that will now be publicly disclosed as part of the report card. So students that are limited English proficient take a language exam to help us understand what we need to be doing to help facilitate programming, interventions, or support if they have limited English proficiency. Based upon that test result, that now gets reported as part of your subgroup data. So we have to understand, when I take the test, do I grow from the school district interventions and services that are put in place to help that student ultimately have a higher level of proficiency in English language arts? So those components between the subgroups, the core content areas, graduation at the high school will also be measured by specific subgroups, and the English language proficiency. There's a new gap thing coming to us this year on the 2017-18 report card. Because of that, and although I think it's still a stretch goal for us, I think we have to at least try to maintain our current grade of B or better. We went from an F to a B. I don't think we should regress. I think we need to continue to move forward. But because of the component grades being changed of how they're going to do the calculation specifically for gap, I think we still have stretch opportunity in even maintaining the B. This is a risk factor across the state. So, but I think we have the capacity, and I think we're capable of achieving it. But my recommendation is that we earn the component grade of at least a B or better on the 2018 local report card. Questions or comments? This is the most complicated one. I'm sorry, but it is.
I'm just a little unclear as to how the individual subgroups are going to be aggregated to get a composite grade of a B, or do you have to get, will we have to get a B in every single subgroup?
They'll roll up together. They're 25% for each of the components. So at the high school, and Jess, you can help me, so you're sitting over there. For the gap closure in the subgroup performance, we're gonna have graduation at the high school. we're going to have English language proficiency. So that's the students that are identified LEP. So that's the second component, that's 25%. The performance within the subgroup of closing the target. So whatever if it's mathematics and I'm African American, it's mathematics and I'm Hispanic, it's mathematics and I'm multiracial. Each one of those is going to have a target that will then roll into a 25% grade. And then the last one's English language arts, correct?
So there's the two target ones, ELA and math, just like they have now, graduation and then the English language proficiency. Each one of those will 25% roll into it.
Right.
Are you able to look at this past year's report card and convert this report card to the new format to know where we'd be? Because right now, we're at 89.1, so we're less than a point away from an A. So where are we if we were to use the new measurement?
Jess is in the process of doing that. I would tell you, based upon this year's performance, it would still be a B. But that's without knowing all the different targets that are now going to be put in place for each specific subgroup in mathematics and each specific subgroup in English language arts. So if we took this year's scores and just convert them, we would get a B.
A B is one thing, but we're at 89.1, so we're just shy of an A. If it's 80.1, that's still a B, but it's a different B.
Yes. And I don't know the percentage. Jess, do you know it off the top of your head?
From this year's, I don't know,
Yeah.
because we don't know about the English language
Right.
proficiency part yet, and what that is all going to entail in terms of how they're going to measure it and what things they're going to give for that 25%. So that's the one part that we don't have, like, we could look at our graduation rate, we could look at ELA and then look at math, and figure out where we are there, but is that LEP one that we're just not sure.
The other question we have is, in high school clearly is going to have graduation because they have students who graduate, but all the other buildings will not.
Yeah.
So that 25% of this component grade, what happens to that when you don't have graduation in an elementary school?
We don't know.
So we don't know yet. So that's what we're waiting on because all we know, this is the one that's changing and we're running as fast as we can and trying to find all the information and answers. But in our calculations, it's one of the conversations we had was that it could end up being 33 1/3% at the other buildings because there is no graduation. I don't know that yet. Right now they're saying 4 components, 25% each, but then the next sentence doesn't say what happens at elementary and middle schools because you don't have graduates.
When will you know?
Soon, hopefully before you adopt this in October. That's why tonight's draft. So we can take note that that's one of the questions that you have, and we'll do our best to find the answers so that we can answer your question, because I agree, we're at 89.1, and I don't know what that's going to be next year.
They have to stop moving our targets.
Well, these are the two new things. One is gap closure. The second is the overall letter grade. Those are the two things left. So, you know, there's been changes over the course of the last 3 years. So now we're down to the last two things, allegedly, and then hopefully the report card is going to be the report card to be the report card, because every time you change it, we have to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
Okay, benchmark 4. This is graduate students who are college and career ready. So although there was significant progress that was made specifically at the high school in relationship to earning a letter grade of a B and having the 14th highest prepared for success ranking within the state of Ohio, we did get the A for graduation rate. And last year we had set a goal in relationship to the district ACT mean score to be at least 20% higher than the state average. So this is for the class of 2017 as reported by the local report card versus ACT. So we spent some time talking about this and discovered that in our planning last year, when we put this goal in place, there are going to be 2 different ways to measure this. So the first is through the local report card, which is actually going to be reported on the class of 2016, which is complicated, but the ACT results for the state that get published on the local report card are always in arrears. And then in September, we get an ACT report specifically from ACT on college readiness. So that's actually the one we just looked at because it just came in this past week. So we actually have the new ACT college readiness report. So on the class of 2017, our composite ACT average was 25.2. The state average was 22. So if we were going to be 20% higher, we should have scored a 26.4. So I'm saying, based upon the ACT College Readiness Report, we did not meet the benchmark, because I don't know what the state average is. The state hasn't released it. Last year, if you recall, was the first year in the state of Ohio that they actually gave us the option through legislation to test all juniors either in the ACT or the SAT. We as a school district chose the ACT. So last year was our baseline for all juniors within the school district to take the ACT. This year, we plan to do the same. We'll administer all juniors the ACT. So for reporting purposes, for clarity, because of the report card reports X, the ACT report's going to report Y. The report card's a year in arrears, the ACT quality report's not. I'm recommending going away from the report card on the ACT measure and actually looking at the ACT College Readiness Report. So maintain the A on the graduation rate should be an expectation that we have as a school district. And in addition to that, I'm recommending we convert the ACT to look at growth for students to say that the class of 18 will earn an ACT mean score that's 20% higher than the state average, as reported by the ACT College Readiness Report in September of 18. So we use the actual college readiness report, and it'll be interesting because last year was the first time that we actually had all juniors sit who are now seniors, and the ACT is now super scored to look at multiple attempts that a student may have and compare that to the new state average that'll be on the class of 18. So instead of looking at a state average based upon the report card, which would then be the class of 2017 in arrears, we would look at actually the class of 18 based upon the ACT report. So not do the local report card, but use the ACT College Readiness Report.
That goal is, have we looked at, top performing schools and are we able to see what they get on ACTs?
We can. I don't have all that information. I'm using the same one because we didn't meet it this past year. So it's still a stretch goal. We actually were at 15% higher than state average when you do the calculations. So I'm saying we still need to be 20% higher. It's still a 5% increase for what we would expect for student performance on the ACT in year over year.
And is ACT being more widely used at colleges as the entrance?
Yes, with the
exam?
exception of out of state. If you're an out of state student, you generally are going to take the SAT as the gatekeeper. All in-state schools will take the ACT. Right, Audra? She's one of the counselors at the high school. So it's still a stretch goal for us because I still believe we should be at least 20% higher. It's a place to start in the conversation. And until we achieve that, then we set the next goal. But we're not there yet. We're making progress. We're 15% higher. We need to be at least 20.
I saw we offer a Saturday readiness class. Do a lot of students take advantage of that?
There was actually one just before, the week before school started, that had over 80 students in it over at the intermediate school. So that's probably the biggest one we've seen, but we offer that. It's through a company, and students actually pay for attendance to come. In addition to that, we've had some offerings that have been held at the McCoy to try to do large group format, just on some strategies associated to the ACT.
Just out of curiosity, how many of our students, what's the percentage of students that take both the ACT and SAT?
I know it's 69% that take the ACT, and there's about 35% that take SAT. And they're probably,
20,
yeah,
Okay.
probably a quarter of the students. Majority will target one. If you know you're going to stay in state, they won't pay the additional fee to take the SAT. If you're undecided and you might go out of state, then you're taking both just to give yourself the option. But if you're an in-state student, you're generally taking the ACT. Fair?
Yep.
Questions on benchmark 4? Okay, benchmark 5. This is enhanced school culture and social and emotional well-being. So this past year, we talked about administering age-appropriate student climate surveys to establish baseline data. So this specifically was the October Gallup survey that we participated in for free. And the second was the Hanover survey related to substance abuse and prevention, specifically within the school campus for kids. So we intend this year, now that we have baseline data, I want to convert it to measure the percentage. So and get rid of the baseline, we're going to continue to measure. It's my recommendation we still administer the Gallup survey in October for comparison purposes now that we have a year of baseline, as well as the Hanover survey in the spring, specifically related to substance abuse and prevention, to determine if the efforts we put in place as a school district are having an impact. So for benchmark 5, I'm recommending we do the same thing. We have the baseline now established. I need to have comparison data to go with it. Any questions about benchmark 5?
This is important.
It's very important.
It often gets overlooked, but this is important to understand what the culture of the school actually is.
Right.
And Gallup has done a lot of work on this over the years, and they have a lot of data that is backed up by pretty solid evidence.
And the turnaround's very good. It's easy for us to use as a tool to learn quickly from, because the results come back electronically and then we can immediately apply it, which has been good for us as a school district. The other piece I'll add to this, and it's the coming attraction piece, because we just started the R Factor with staff. There is future opportunity in relationship to this specific benchmark to talk about the R Factor and the student side. But we're not ready for that yet. So I would tell you that's a coming attraction once we get to student implementation of the R Factor.
Exciting.
It is, but that'll be added. I don't think it'll replace. I think it's going to become in addition to. Benchmark 6 is specifically for fiscal management. So this past year, we had set 3 targets within benchmark 6. The first was to receive an award for the publication of the CAFR that the finance department works tremendously on. And if Mrs. Jenkins was here, I would commend her and her staff. We did receive the Excellence in Financial Reporting for the CAFR that's posted on our website. The second was to receive an unqualified audit with fewer than 3 minor compliance citations. We did receive an unqualified audit with no citations, so it's tremendous news. And the last was our goal to reduce total expenditures, specifically in the operational line item, by at least $560,000. We actually reduced that by $1.7 million this past year and far exceeded the goal that was required. So we're very proud of the work that was done there, but clearly we've been trying to talk about, Becky and I, what specifically to bring forward to the board. And as you look at the 5-year forecast, we still have future opportunity related to finance. We'll talk about this at length at your October work session, because in October you approved the 5-year forecast for the update. But last May, when we actually did the forecast, there's been several things that have now changed to positively impact the forecast, but there's still opportunity, including trying to offset some component of deficit spending within the forecast that we'll talk to you about in October. So to that end, Becky and I are recommending that we actually include a similar goal to what we did last year, in that we would still do a 1% reduction in total expenditures. So not just localized to the operational side of the business in the school district, but to try to look at the total expenditures in our school district and save at least $609,235.91, which is 1% of the May 5-year forecast. So that's where that number is coming from. Line 4.500 in May of 2017, when you last updated the forecast, had us at $60,923,591 as our book of business for total expenditures. So we're recommending a 1% reduction, and anything and everything that we can find would contribute to that 1% savings in the district. Comments?
So what's included in total expenditures that was not included in operational expenditures?
As an example, building budget. So we allocate X amount of dollars to the building for a specific budget. So if Katie at the intermediate school saves $600 and comes in under budget, her $600 goes back to the total line item. So it would contribute to the $609,000 in savings. The electrical bill comes in $2,800 less for the year than what we projected, goes back to offset total expenditures for the school district.
And that wasn't included in our.
No, last year our focus was personnel, specifically within the operational unit, to look at staffing mechanisms. And I can't guarantee that I'm going to have the same level of turnover that we had predicted this past year. So I can't localize the savings just to personnel. So I'm saying total expenditures, at least 1%. Questions? Other comments?
Those top 2 bullet points, those also go down to the proposed?
No.
Or you just want the,
I just focused on the reduction because I think it should be expected that Becky's going to fulfill the top 2. She and her staff are doing wonderful things, and I think that we will continue to get those. So the measure for you, because it'll tie probably back to specific goals related to me and or Becky for performance purposes, I'm recommending the financial. Okay, benchmark 7. Ensure community engagement and stakeholder satisfaction. So this past year, we committed to doing an annual community survey. Our survey this past year was specifically on communications, and then we did staff surveys within our school district for baseline data. We met those requirements. We did administer all types of surveys that we had committed to do. I'm recommending that we continue to do this, much like the student side related to culture and engagement. The staff and community side for engagement is equally as important. So I recommend we do some type of an annual community survey. We're still trying to decide what the focus of that could be, and I think there's multiple options that we can discuss in the future, because that would be a spring administration. And then the second would be staff surveys that we would also do in the spring. Focused on anything related to educational quality, school culture, communications, climate, or fiscal. So we could pick anything within those areas, but we should still do something for our greater community as well as our staff in relationship to community engagement and satisfaction. Because they too have a voice and we can learn from it. Any questions about benchmark 7?
Did the staff take Gallup?
No, staff did a specific survey that we crafted with Hanover. So Hanover facilitated the staff survey for us.
Would you do that again?
Yes, that would be a spring administration to compare. Now that we've restructured, it'll be interesting to compare, because several of the questions last year were about restructuring. Now that we've actually restructured, it's one of the things on our to-do list. We have to modify the staff survey to take out the restructuring questions and reword them about their actual experience now that we've restructured.
You also had previous expectations of attendance at numerous community events and to facilitate engagement. Is it fair to say that that is just a part of the job now and will continue as it has?
Okay, that's a great question, and I'm going to differentiate between this is the district goal, and then we have to establish the specific goal for Michael and our specific goal for Becky. Okay. So where you just went was my specific goal, and that's a conversation we have to have to determine what we want to do for this year.
Fair enough.
But
we want to see you work in concession.
I was at over 300 different events last year, and I loved going to every one of them. But I was busy, so we're busy. But yeah, you can catch me on Friday night at the concession stand.
I know it.
So
kids love seeing you there.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Actually, I get to know a lot of people that way that I normally don't get to see.
Yes.
Because you can't go through the stands and see 3,000 people, but there's 1,000 people that come to the concession stand. So you get to see a lot of people at the concession stand. Ask Dr. Hamilton. They were just there in Patrick. So we just worked Friday night together. And actually, I would invite you if you want something fun to do. It really is fun in a very sick kind of way to work at the concession stand. We actually do have a really good time. Time goes really fast because you're busy the whole time from start to finish. But it actually is fun.
Hot dogs do you go through?
A lot. I don't know what the total number of hot dogs is in a night, but I'm going to tell you there's a lot.
And it was a great win on Friday night.
It was a great win. We won it overtime, so congratulations. Any questions on benchmark 7 or overall? So when you put these back together, just remember that our focus, so we have the commitment to excellence to be in the top 5% by 2021, and then our focus that all employees are accountable for implementing research-based practices, including a rigorous and aligned curriculum, common assessments, focused instruction, and data-driven decisions to achieve the best academic and developmental outcomes for every student within a fiscally sustainable budget. So this is not new. This is the same focus that we created when we created our commitment to excellence and the statement of purpose within our school district. The why, the how, and the what haven't changed, so I call this the learning target. So we talk specifically about the center of the bullseye, student achievement, student growth, and student well-being is why we were here. And then the outer ring, the social emotional curriculum assessment and instruction, are specifically how we ultimately accomplish the what questions that surround it to meet the needs of learners every single day. We will continue for response purposes to have clarity of purpose across the school district. We act deliberately with defined action. We implement a guaranteed and viable curriculum across our entire school district through teachers teaching rigorous and a standards-aligned curriculum deeply. As many teachers have now discovered through the implementation across the curriculum in our school district. We are now continuing to develop and use common assessments to basically look at data specifically across the school district. Performance Matters will only enhance that this year. Evaluating specific levels of student work to, again, compare and contrast and understand how students perform at different levels. Providing intervention and enrichment opportunities to not only go deeper, but also stretch the student that already knows the content. Monitor progress regularly for corrective action. Increase our classroom walkthroughs, specifically with feedback for classroom teachers. That was a challenge that I gave to the leadership team willingly this year. They've accepted it for greater presence within classrooms every single day. We're analyzing data to make data-driven decisions. We've started the implementation of the R factor, and at the end of the day, we will believe, we will grow, we will serve, we will lead, and we will achieve because we can and will continuously improve. I'm proud of the work we do, and I'm proud of the work we've yet to do to benefit the 5,000 plus kids that are in our school district every single day. We're a great team, and we have more work to do, but I'm proud of everything we've done.
Great stuff.
Okay, now we're going to switch gears. Patrick, go number 3.
Michael, in the agenda, the next item is board policy. You want to get those?
Can we skip it and come back? Would you mind?
I'm totally fine.
Since I'm standing here, can I just do this one?
You want to go?
Issue 42. So for public purposes tonight, I just want to present the basics to try to help people answer some of the questions that we've started to receive. The school district has partnered with New Albany for Kids to actually facilitate and run Issue 42. I'm going to stay at the 10,000 foot level tonight and just talk at a very high level to update you and provide the basics for our school community to understand what Issue 42 is all about. So as we look across the school campus, that one's dead too, Patrick, sorry. As we look across the school campus, Issue 42 is really concentrated on 5 specific areas. The areas include safety and security, roofing, heating and cooling or HVAC, school transportation, and infrastructure specifically for technology, so tech infrastructure. And it's dominantly going to impact the entire school campus, but a little less so clearly at the intermediate school because of its age. It's the newest building on campus. It requires the least amount of work, i.e. roofs. The roofs primarily are middle or at the high school and at the primary school based upon their age. So what's needed? Our school facilities and equipment support nearly 5,000 kids every single day across our entire learning campus. We need to continue to repair and replace those 5 specific areas for safety and security equipment, roofs, heating and cooling, busing, and this levy will generate an investment by our local taxpayers to support the $120 million worth of facilities by basically investing less than 1% of its total value. So why now? We have a unique opportunity, and this is known by the Board of Education, but for our families at home, 2.5 mils of the school district's tax service for debt collections rolling off January 1st, 2018. This will save taxpayers approximately $7. It's actually a little bit more than that. More than $7 per month per $100,000 a home valuation. And because some of our buildings are now 20 plus years old, and it's probably the biggest surprise conversation when I talk to people about roofs in particular, it's hard to imagine that the high school is going to be 25 years old. It is. When you look at it externally, you don't imagine it being 25 years old. But just like your home, when you think about maintaining your home, things start to happen once you hit the 15, 20, and 25-year markers generally speaking, that you have to start doing some routine maintenance or specific types of repairs to maintain your asset called your home. The same thing needs to happen here on the school campus. We have to devote money to critical repairs and replacements over the next 5 years. So working with the Board of Education, we've created the plan, and you went through this process to try to determine specifically how much it's going to cost. So we're requesting that of the 2.5 mills that's rolling off in January, we maintain as a school district 1.25 mills for the next 5 years to allow us to do the capital repairs and replacements across our school campus. This actually will cost taxpayers less than $4 per month per $100,000 home valuation that's currently rolling off. The difference, because we've been asked that question already, if more than 7's rolling off, why is this one $4? And it's because the $7 that's rolling off is based upon the home property values at the time that that tax was passed by our taxpayers. Using today's dollars, it'll be approximately $4 per month because it's based upon today's home valuation, not the home valuations in January. Today's home valuation will determine the rate of taxation. We will collect $1,172,815.59 annually for the next 5 years for approximately $5.8 million. And again, it will not increase with any property tax reevaluation. By law, this is the other question we're getting most frequently because people are hearing the word permanent. By law, capital repairs and replacements within a school district that last greater than 5 years are called permanent improvements. So on the tax ballot language, persons will see when they go to vote, permanent improvements levy. It's called that because it lasts more than 5 years. We do not have the authority or the power to change that language to say capital repair and replacement. We cannot do that. The statute says permanent improvements levy. It is not a forever tax. It is a 5-year request. At the end of 5 years, it will expire. Tomorrow, we're actually hosting a volunteer meeting here at the intermediate school on campus. So tomorrow night at 7 p.m., we're inviting persons that are interested in learning more about the specific thing called Issue 42 and our campaign and the work that needs to be done within the school district to please come to the intermediate school tomorrow at 7 p.m. If you're not available, there'll be future opportunities for you to get involved. We believe clearly, based upon the current report card data that's been generated, that we are clearly in the middle of the pack for Franklin County. Our per pupil expenditure is $10,062 based upon fiscal year 2017 and the ODE report card. We're very proud of the fact that we've been fiscally responsible. We've looked at the resources that we have and we think we're spending them wisely. The Board of Education knows that the $5.8 million, round numbers, that the permanent improvement levy will generate will not fix everything that we've outlined for the next 5 years. We must continue to spend the $1.3 million you've allocated through the general revenue fund to complement the $5.8 million that we're asking for through Issue 42. Again, the community is welcome at any time to contact Board of Education members or a member of the administrative team throughout our school district to talk about the projections that we have for Issue 42 for the next 5 years to repair, replace, and maintain our school campus. Are there any other comments or questions that the board would like to provide?
This is a good overview. I think this is a good deck to share with people.
Clarity is a wonderful thing.
And it just boils it down to simple messaging.
And we have several volunteers working us behind the scenes that we're very grateful for. So several community members have stepped up in the planning meetings that we've had to date. Our formal kickoff is coming. We've already done the social media presence through Facebook, but the school district will continue to work for New Albany for Kids after school hours for school personnel on the campaign specifically to try to help engage our community in supporting us for Issue 42.
People can come visit us at football games if they have questions also.
You're going to see lots of us at lots of events throughout October. So that calendar is being filled as we speak for all the places we're going to be speaking about Issue 42 to help our community understand the importance of maintaining our school facility. And it's an investment. You invest in your home. You've invested $120 million in our school facilities. We have to maintain your investment. We're asking to do that at what we believe to be a fair and reasonable request. And it's a unique opportunity because most school districts can't say, at the same time I'm asking you to do this, you have a roll-off happening. That's actually a wonderful thing for us because not many school districts get to say that. It's still an ask, but we believe our community will support us. Any other comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Last discussion item are 3 board policies. And I spoke slowly enough that Michael could return. But I apparently not slowly enough because he still needs to get on his computer. But
My computer had died. Mine's not back up yet.
okay.
Thank you, and I apologize, it took me a minute. Board of Education members, this evening under board policy, you have 3 proposed revisions. The first is the use of district premises, the second is public attendance at school events, and the third is equivalent education outside the schools and participation in extracurricular activities for students not enrolled in the school district. Each includes specific updates based upon changes in board practice, either through implementation and or statutory provisions that have changed specifically associated to the equivalent education opportunities for students that have rights to participate in activities on the school campus if they choose not to be enrolled in our school district, dominantly homeschooled children. So that's the changes that you would see. They're not overly substantive. Most come forward through basically changes in legislation, but I'm happy to answer any specific questions based upon the attachments that we had sent to you.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you. We have our first opportunity for public participation. And with none currently, we'll move on to board action item. We have 1 action item tonight, and that is a personnel item. Mr. Sawyers?
So
Sorry.
the board action item, because she's not here, I'm going to speak to it. This is the recommendation. The Board of Education started the process with Ms. Jenkins as the CFO treasurer within the school district to go through the public hearing process necessary under state statute to permit the retire, rehire, and resignation and rehire of Becky Jenkins to serve as the treasurer with the New Albany Plain Local School District. The retirement date would become effective December 31st, 2017, with immediate reemployment and the loss of the 2 months of retirement provided by the state effective January 1st. So the board action item this evening is the contract that I believe Mr. Darrow was the lead facilitator on in negotiating with the treasurer. And I think he could speak to changes in the terms and conditions.
All righty. So the principal change in the contract is that there's no change in salary. Ms. Jenkins' salary will be fixed for the duration of the contract with no increases. Her bonus pay opportunity will increase somewhat with district achievement of goals, which is completely consistent with the direction that this board has taken for all employees of the district to have significant and meaningful bonus potential. And so those are the 2 big changes. The term of the contract for timing purposes is 2 years and 7 months. It exceeds our benchmark target by 7 months, but that is principally because of a timing issue to maintain continuity within the school district. And we will continue to enjoy Ms. Jenkins' services. And as part of the leadership team, Ms. Jenkins has done an excellent job of assuring that we have the information necessary. There is excellent transparency with regard to district finances. As a key member of the executive team, Ms. Jenkins and Mr. Sawyers have worked exceptionally well together. From a cost savings point of view, Ms. Jenkins and Mr. Sawyers absorbed the role of business manager. And so the district has saved significant amounts of money by not replacing that position, and they have committed to continue doing that. So all in all, I think the contract terms, we've simplified the contract terms, and it is very much a win-win for everyone involved.
The only thing that I know that happened was that Ms. Jenkins' original contract, last time it was awarded, was a 5-year. So this actually new term reduces it by a year, based upon the negotiations that Mr. Darrow concluded.
Correct.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
Any questions? Okay. Then could I have a roll call, please?
Need a motion?
Oh, I need a motion to accept the personnel item.
Second.
All right, Ms. Kalinowski and Mr. Bush. Now roll call, please.
Ms. Kalinowski?
Yes.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
President McClelland?
Yes.
And Vice President Darrow?
Yes.
All right, that motion passes. Next item up is treasurer items.
So this is the monthly financial statement, if I may, on behalf of Ms. Jenkins. I did go back and forth through email with her today and text messaging. The monthly financials are on plan. Spending and revenue are as projected. I'm not going to go through all the specificity of the details that she may be able to provide. I know you had the attachments, but the most important piece is that we are on plan as scheduled and moving forward.
Could I have a motion on the treasurer's item?
So moved.
Mr. Darrow,
Second.
Mr. Bush, any questions? Have a roll call, please.
Okay, Ms. Kalinowski?
Yes.
President McClelland?
Yes.
Mr. Darrow?
Yes.
And Mr. Bush?
Yes.
That brings us to superintendent's items A through F. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Darrow, Mrs. Kalinowski,
You need to include the addendum
and that would include the addendum,
for A.
yes, for A. So that is, I don't have it in front of me right
It's
now.
A. It's
A.
personnel.
It's under A, personnel. It's additional person and personnel. With that addendum, could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mrs. Kalinowski,
Second.
Mr. Darrow, Mr. Sawyers.
Thank you. Just want to make sure we got that in.
Yep.
Board of Education members, for personnel this evening, the most significant thing that's outlined, it's beyond the typical hiring and or resignations that we receive or substitute classifications, is really the first agenda item under personnel. It's contracts for certified staff. You will recall that during the negotiations process with the Plain Local Education Association, we adjusted the salary schedule placement lanes and provided opportunity for advanced coursework, specifically once you received your bachelor's until you received your master's or postgraduate work. So number one this evening includes the 100 plus teachers that qualify for lane adjustments based upon the additional graduate credit that they've now certified to the school district through transcripts through higher education institutions. So this is the outcome of that negotiations process that we told you. We had no way of knowing how many teachers would be in between specific levels of graduate credit. Now we know that they've completed the requirements. The deadline, first deadline of September 15th has passed. We won't see this again until February 15th is the next opportunity by contract. So there's over 100 teachers that are listed that qualify for lane adjustments. That's the most significant thing in the personnel section this evening. Letter B for general business this evening, we have a student teaching agreement with Ohio Wesleyan University. So standard protocol for the school district to bring those forward to allow student teachers to come into our school district. Letter C for donations. As always, we're very grateful for the donations we receive as a school district from all of the different persons that touch the lives of kids across our school district through philanthropic endeavors or personal connections to classrooms. But we're happy to receive those donations as a school district. Letter D are the field trips this evening to support the music program and the both at the middle school, high school levels, and the work that the students would be doing specifically for marine biology to visit Andros Islands in the Bahamas next summer. So we approve those trips in advance to allow teachers the opportunity to work with students and families to do the fundraising if necessary to support the continued learning that takes place on such international opportunities that we expose kids to. Senior waiver this evening for letter E are the students that qualify through board policy to be eligible to graduate from New Albany High School. And letter F is a transportation in lieu of reimbursement request that was received for the conclusion of last school year based upon the filing. It's a correction in that there was a change in parent, the award for specifically who's eligible to receive the payment. So it includes that correction for adjustment purposes this evening. Happy to answer any questions.
If there aren't any questions, I will ask for a roll call, please.
Ms. Kalinowski,
Yes.
Vice President Darrow,
Yes.
President McClellan,
Yes.
and Mr. Bush.
Yes.
Next, I'd ask for a motion to enter into executive session as permitted by 121.22G4 of the Ohio Revised Code tonight for the purpose of considering the terms and conditions of employment of a public employee or official.
So moved.
Mr. Darrow,
Second.
Kalinowski. Have a roll call, please.
Yes, Vice President Darrow,
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski,
Yes.
President McClellan,
Yes.
and Mr. Bush.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We do not expect to have any announcement or action after the executive session, so thank you all for joining us.